Hi, my name is Phil, and my wife Amy and I are fixing an old house. Please keep in mind, this video is from the perspective of a do-it-yourself project, and it covers some of the sort of things you need to think about if you are a do-it-yourselfer. If you have some great tips, I'd like to hear about them in the comments. Since we demolished a bunch of walls, we needed to build some new ones. If you're handy, you can easily do your own rough carpentry and save quite a bit of money.
Save up to $10,000!
To be sure we wouldn't cause the house to collapse around us, we brought in our engineer, Dylan Fox of Fox Engineering. If you recall, he engineered the beam that spans the house east-west in the kitchen/pantry area. If you've never done any carpentry in a house, here are the basic parts of a partition wall. Bottom plate, the 2x4 that sits on the floor. Studs, the upright 2x4s. Top plate, the 1 or 2 2x4s that sit on the top of the wall. In some parts of the US, you are required to have 2 2x4s for the top plate, and they are required to overlap each other at the corners. We found that the local building code requires double top plates on walls. When you do a corner, you overlap these top plates so the walls are quite stiff at the corners, and if there is any load transferred to a wall, say from heavy snow, they are pretty sturdy. The first thing we noticed doing the framing is the lumber we use now grows so fast that it really isn't anywhere near as stable as the studs we used even 3 or 4 years ago. So even if you pick through the studs in the lumberyard, by the time you are nailing them together, they really tend to warp and twist. And this happens with even the premium kiln-dried studs. The best we could do is use the really warped stuff for shorter pieces and put the best stuff where a warped beam would be the most noticeable. Also, where you have wood in contact with concrete, for example on a slab-on-grade floor, the code requires you to use pressure-treated lumber. In some locations, a naturally durable wood such as cedar, black locust, or redwood may be allowed. Other requirements may apply for crawl spaces, pier and beam construction, etc. You may not realize this, but concrete is porous. It varies depending on region, time of year, moist cure time, and admixtures, but residential concrete can have quite a lot of water permeability, and the concrete used in the construction of homes does not have to meet the same standards as concrete used in other applications, such as those used for water retention. Concrete also normally has some cracks in it, so water will travel through it, even if it's only a small amount. Wood in contact with concrete that is in contact with the soil, such as in floor slabs, basement walls, and so on, will rot unless it is pressure treated. Also, fasteners in contact with concrete or pressure treated lumber need to be hot dipped or otherwise rated for use in pressure treated wood and concrete. In the spare bedroom, where we have a floor that is slab on grade, we used pressure treated wood for the base plate. The same goes for the wall we framed in to enclose the refrigerator. We used the powder actuated nailer and ramset ramguard pins with washers to secure the bottom plates. In the spare bedroom, the closet needed to hide the giant electrical cable that came in from the outside panel and was run to the kitchen where there was a sub-panel. We bumped out the rear wall around the cable and framed in the closet in the corner of the room. We built that wall in place instead of standing it up. Keep in mind that closet walls are non-structural. They only really serve to hold up drywall and closet doors. So you'll see that we didn't bother putting in a proper header over the door. That little closet has almost everything in framing. There's a double top plate. The bottom plate is pressure-treated wood nailed to the concrete slab floor. The ends of each wall are double studded. There's a framed-in closet door with king studs, jack studs, and cripple studs, and there is an interior corner that will need little drywall clips. Before we do the drywall in that closet, we will protect the cable with a sheet of steel. In the doorway, if the wall was supporting anything, such as a ceiling joist or two, as you might have had with an attic access inside that closet, then we would have used a minimum 2x4 header. There are many ways to do corners, and depending on whether the wall is an exterior wall or an interior wall, you might find yourself doing more than one style. Our local code requires the ends of walls to be doubled up studs, so that dictated how we did a corner. One thing to consider is whether you want insulation to tuck into the corner. Wood is not near as good an insulator as fiberglass or foam, so there are a couple of styles that allow you to get just a bit more insulation inside the wall, such as the California corner, which also puts studs on both sides of a corner, so you don't need to install drywall clips. As you can see, depending on how you arrange your corners and what your local code requires, you may need to add these clips so you have something to support the drywall in the corner. As I said, some corners are designed to provide wood on both sides of the corner, and others need drywall clips. Your local inspectors may check to be sure you are using enough of the right kind of fasteners. Your local code requirements may vary, especially in earthquake country or areas where you get a lot of hurricanes or high winds. Always check with your local permit office. Generally, in the United States, residential construction fasteners are covered by Table R602.3 of the Residential Code. It specifies the length, type, and number of nails, how they should be spaced, and how and where they should be nailed. It should come as no surprise that code requires a lot of fasteners. If you've been wondering what a toenail, end nail, and face nail are, toenails are driven in at opposing angles from the sides of a stud, and they are a pretty strong way to attach the butt end of a stud to a plate. Toenailing not only resists shear forces, but also twisting and pull-out forces. Face nailing is frequently used to attach doubled-up studs together. The nail is driven through the face of a stud into the face of the next one to make a bigger, stronger stud. End nailing doesn't provide as much pull-out resistance, but you typically use it to fasten a stud to a bottom or top plate, where the plate is trapped between the stud and the floor or ceiling. One common use of end nailing is when you build a wall on the floor and tip it up into place. You nail through the bottom and top plates and into the ends of the studs. Although you might find it easier to use screws, you might be told by your local inspector that you can only use them in certain situations. For example, you can use lag bolts or specially rated screws to hang joists or sister joists together. Your local building inspection office very likely has a handout that gives you the guidance you need. Screws are made of a pretty hard steel that can be quite brittle. Nails are made of a metal that is more bendy and can flex and bend under a strong shear force, such as high winds or an earthquake that would snap a normal screw. Screw manufacturers are coming out with new products all the time, and these days there are screws that meet the minimum shear strength for framing applications, but they are quite expensive compared to nails. I suggest you keep a tub of them on hand in case you want a fastener with a bit more resistance to being pulled out. I used them to hold doubled up studs together if they were warping and bending. I took the worst twisted and bent studs and used them for blocking in a few places where I wanted to mount a light fixture or where I saw studs bending like bananas. The blocking was only in there to hold the studs straight. I used the screws instead of nails because it was easier to get those to start and then screw in pulling the wood all together. So in that case, I was looking for the resistance to being pulled out. This isn't going to be the only video about rough framing. In the next video, I want to show you some of the odd things we encountered, like floating walls, knee walls, and blocking. If you thought this video was fascinating, or you simply like studs, please like and subscribe. And don't forget to click on the bell next to the word subscribe so you get notified when I upload another video. Thanks for watching.
Save up to $10,000.
Now how much would you pay? $14.95, $15.95? Don't answer yet. You also get a complete set to get 2 knives. Call today. I really love my sliding compound miter saw. It slices, it dices, it makes julienne lumber.